Smolin says she paid for this new billboard before the synagogue shooting.
It has happened again. A 16-year-old student is dead after a school shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina. Police say it started over bullying and escalated into a fight that ended with one student shooting the other this morning. Police say the 16-year-old suspect admitted he pulled the trigger. In a state far too used to high-profile school shootings, far too many districts fall short of doing something that could very well prevent the next shooting.
9 Wants to Know, along with our fellow TEGNA stations from around the country, looked at reports from more than 17,000 school districts, trying to show us what's happening with mental health resources. As part of our Help Wanted series, Chris Vanderveen shows us why some schools are reconsidering their priorities.
Listen, this is you.
Schools in Colorado routinely fill with the sounds of more than 900,000 students. Statistically speaking,
Well, think about this.
few will ever witness a random act of extreme violence. But statistics offer little comfort to those
School's going on lockdown, I'm not sure why.
those who know firsthand
I'm going to the library.
what it's like to be on the wrong end of long odds.
That's probably what I remember the most, just how quickly things happened.
Deputy James Englert, Arapahoe High's school resource officer, was in the school when a student came in with a gun in 2013.
There's a student down in the athletic hall.
That student was 17-year-old Claire Davis.
When I found Claire in the hallway is when I knew something was bad.
Since then, the school has done what many schools have done, tried to eliminate this problem, one security camera or locked door at a time.
Do you think that most every large school has at least one or two kids that they worry about?
More than that.
John Nicoletti, a psychologist and nationally recognized voice in school violence prevention, says securing buildings doesn't hurt, but it's too little too late the moment a student or someone else decides to, as he says, go tactical.
Because if somebody's gotten to that point.
Yeah, it's too late. What you're doing at that point is how do we minimize the body count?
I think the focus on physical safety betrays a little bit of the complexity of the issue.
Molly O'Connor works for Students for Education Reform, a national advocacy group that wants the country to change its collective mindset.
We need professionals who can identify that students are on the path to being mentally unhealthy and figure out ways to help them with that. So we want a full-time mental health counselor in every single school.
A lofty goal, one identified by the National Association of School Psychologists, or NASP, in 2013 following Sandy Hook. NASP recommended at least one counselor for every 250 students, one social worker for every 400 students, and one school psychologist for every 700 students. Our investigation found 130 of Colorado's 178 school districts, or nearly 3 out of 4, failed to meet even one of those standards. Only 3 districts met 2 of the standards, and not one district met all 3.
Parents and community members are saying, we want more mental health.
Ellen Kelty works for Denver Public Schools, a district that since it last reported its numbers to the federal government, quadrupled the number of school psychologists. DPS now meets the 700-to-1 standard.
Our mental health, our psychologists, our social workers are often the first and only mental health support our kids have.
What she worries about the most, suicide, the leading cause of death of high school students in Colorado. And if you decrease suicide, she says, you'll likely prevent something else as well.
Research from the FBI shows that 75% of kids that have done a targeted school violence are actually suicidal.
We're in this together to solve the problem.
Littleton Public Schools Superintendent Brian Ewert knows his district was forever changed by what happened at Arapahoe High, one of his district's 3 high schools, nearly 5 years ago.
It is a very traumatic event that happens not only to the school, but to the community at large.
Since 2013, his district has devoted an additional $1 million to prevention.
But most of that went to mental health. I think $800,000 of that went to beefing up counselors, social workers, and psychologists in our schools.
The Littleton district now, for the first time, meets the national standards for school psychologists. Something people like...
I could tell something was definitely wrong.
...like Deputy Englert appreciate, if only because it decreases the odds of someone else having to go through a day.
Are you a different officer because of that day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
A day quite like the one he went through.
Where do we want rescue?
Nearly 5 years ago.
We do have one student down.
Chris Vanderveen, 9 News.
Superintendent of Littleton School District Brian Ewert told us about a meeting this summer with superintendents from around the state. When asked what the #1 issue their schools were facing, nearly everyone in that room said mental health problems. With another shooting today, it is a problem that everyone knows is simply not going away.
And everybody's going to be concerned about their kids' school and where they stand.
And that's why we put all of this information online. You can check your school district, 178 school districts in the state. You can see how your child's district compared to all the rest.
Yeah, and he is still at Arapahoe High School.
He is still at Littleton, at Arapahoe High School. It tells you something about that officer, how committed he was to the students of that school.
Loves those
He
kids.
is to the students of the school.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
You bet.